Alright, this is Dr. T and welcome to week 2 of our course here at Ashford General Education 499 Capstone. The first thing that you're going to do this week is you're going to create a professional resume and cover letter for a position within your selected industry. You'll also need to attach a copy of that resume and cover letter to this discussion forum. Make sure that when you do this, this document has to be perfect. This is your calling card for a job that you're going to apply for. So it's got to be perfect. Make sure that everything is spelled correctly, punctuated correctly, because I can tell you from having served on hiring committees before, if one thing is incorrect on these documents, then that will often be enough to get your resume tossed into the trash can. So make sure that these documents are perfect. Also, you'll need to respond to at least 3 of your classmates' posts by day 7, providing both positive and constructive feedback. Please do, if you see something that's spelled incorrectly on your classmates' resumes, I would tell them about it. I know this doesn't really constitute positive feedback, but this is so important. You have to spell everything correctly. Everything has to be correctly punctuated on the resume and the cover letter. The Ashford University Student Portal has a number of items that can help you to construct your resume and your cover letter, so please take a look there. Go to the Student Portal homepage, locate Career and Alumni Services. You'll look for the blue career word cluster image, and then you'll click on the link to My Career and Professional Development Center to review resume and cover letter resources. Also, Ashford has a Career Services Center that's available to critique your resume and or cover letter. You can contact Career Services directly at careerservices@ashford.edu, or you can call the appointment line at 1-866-711-1700 extension 1876. You'll have to allow 2 to 3 business days for a career services specialist to respond to your request. The next thing that we need to do in week 2 is a little assignment where you'll be looking at 3 things. You're going to be conducting a critique of 1 blog, 1 video, and 1 podcast. And these will be items that provide information that address the topic of your final research paper. So say that your final research paper has to do with funding for stem cell research, then you'll want to look at a blog, a video, and a podcast that deal with your issue. Now you want to assess the author's use of bias. Well, what do we mean by bias? Let's say you're writing that research paper on funding for stem cell research. If you are a genetic scientist, you would expect a genetic scientist to be biased towards funding of stem cell research. However, if you find a source that is a person who engages in fundamental religious belief, you might expect that author to be biased against funding stem cell research. So when you look at sources, you have to figure out, okay, is the author of that source biased towards one viewpoint or another? Is the author analyzing the problem in an objective way? Also, you need to figure out whether the author is providing valid information. Is the author a credentialed person? Is the author an expert in the field? Does the author hold a PhD? Does the author hold a terminal degree in his or her field? If I'm writing a paper about stem cell research, then an astrophysicist is probably not the sort of person who will be an expert on stem cell research. I want to find information from a geneticist, someone who's an expert in the field. Also, you'll need to analyze or assess these blogs, videos, and podcasts for applicability of information. Is the information they're providing applicable to the topic that you're dealing with? If you're dealing with stem cell research, an article or podcast that deals with astrophysics is really not going to be applicable to your research paper on stem cell research. Also, you'll need to examine the influence of web-based information on global citizenship and multicultural understanding. And then you'll compile a list of 3 factors that you believe should be considered when evaluating internet sources for use in researching information. And really, in my estimation, the sorts of factors that you consider when evaluating internet sources are the same sort of factors that you should use when evaluating any source of information. Does it come from a credible source? Is the person who's providing you with the information an expert in the field? Do they hold a PhD? Do they hold a terminal degree in their field? Are they an expert in their field? Has the person's work been examined and vetted by other experts in the field? One of the ways that we determine validity of information is whether an article or book has been examined and reviewed by other experts in the field. If you find an article written by Dragonslayer 666, I can tell you right away that this is not a valid resource. You want resources written by people who have real names, who are experts in the field, and have degrees from real universities. And these are the sorts of things that you look at when you consider whether a source is valid. When you write, you have to use scholarly sources. You cannot use Wikipedia, you can't use Yahoo Answers. All of these things are written primarily by people whose credentials you have no idea about. They are just nameless people with computers many times who have time to publish things on the internet. You have no idea frequently what their credentials are or whether they're experts in the field. Just because somebody publishes something on the internet or even in a book doesn't mean that that person is an expert in that topic. Also, make sure that this paper is at least 3 to 4 pages in length. Probably devote at least 1 page to each item. 1 page to the blog, 1 page to the video, 1 page to the podcast. That's at the very minimum. The page count does not include the title and references pages. So really, at the very minimum, you should be turning in a 5-page document. Page 1, title page. Pages 2, 3, 4, and 5 should be your pages of analysis. And page 6 and beyond should be the references page. So at the bare minimum, you should be turning in at least 5 pages in this document. It's got to be formatted in APA style as always. And in addition to the 3 multimedia sources that you're analyzing, the blog, the video, and the podcast, you're going to have to support your points with at least 2 scholarly sources. One of the scholarly sources has to be from the Ashford Online Library, and I would suggest both of them should come from the Ashford Online Library. You need to cite your sources within the text of your paper and on the reference page. So in-text citation plus a full reference at the end. If you need help with APA formatting, the Ashford Writing Center has plenty of samples. You can also search for Purdue OWL APA on the internet, and Purdue University has a great web collection of web pages on APA format. Also, you'll want to check out the grading rubric. This paper, this assignment is worth 10% of your grade. The critiques are 3 out of 10 points. Your examination of those sources is worth 2.5 of those 10 points. The list of factors for consideration when evaluating internet sources for search is worth 2.5 points. Then your written communication is worth half a point. Your critical thinking is also worth half a point. Your grammar, spelling, and so on is worth a quarter of a point. And then ultimately the APA formatting is a quarter, the page requirement's a quarter, and the resource requirement is also worth a quarter of a point. Please have a look at the rubric before you work on the paper. This way you'll know how the paper is going to be graded and what we're going to be looking for. Please do follow the directions very carefully. This is the main reason why most people run into problems, is because they don't follow the directions. So please read the directions carefully, and hopefully things will work out well for you. Drop me a note if you have any questions about the assignment. Best wishes in week 2, and I'll see you in week 3.